Hi and welcome to GRVO TV. Still in sunny England, still in the heat wave, and it is very hot at the moment. But I thought I'd just give you an update on my first few flights with the Blade 250 CFX, and also I've got a little comparison here with the Blade 360 CFX. And as you can see, the 360 is a much bigger heli. It's ever so slightly bigger than a 400 size, so that gives you a good sort of idea of the scale of this helicopter. Obviously it's a bit shorter, blades are much shorter. It's sort of like, I think it's almost like nearly half the size really. Obviously there is a 270 which sits in between those, but I haven't heard anything sort of particularly good said about that. There are similarities between the two, the way the frame is laid out and the aluminium. I mean, it even uses the same servos. And one thing I did notice was on my 360, the servo arms are plastic. On this, the servo arms, the actual horns themselves, are aluminium, which is a really nice touch. So, well over-engineered from a servo point of view. Or this is under-engineered, but to be honest, I've had no issues with this whatsoever. Now, who are these for? Well, if you're a beginner, this is not the heli for you. Yes, you could set it up very docile, but there are better options out there. If you want a full-out, aggressive, 3D, extremely powerful, bearing in mind this is running a 6-cell setup, an extremely powerful machine that is capable of pretty much anything, all carbon fibre, obviously it's already got all the metal head and swash. The only thing it hasn't got the metal is the tail, and to be honest that was they say a weight saving thing, but it wouldn't take a lot to upgrade the tail to metal, but to be honest I've had no need to, and flies absolutely stunning. If you're more of an intermediate flyer, or maybe even a beginner, then this could be the heli for you. Now, to be honest, it'd be a toss-up between this and the 230, which is what this really replaces. Now, the 200 was a fixed pitch, and that's okay to get used to flying a proper helicopter around. Then if you moved on to either this or the 230, I think you'd be, I think it'd make your life a lot easier, put it that way. Now, when I flew this, I don't like flying, and I don't need to fly in these stabilised modes. And the first mode you get, which is just normal mode, it's stabilised. Now, the problem with the stabilised mode is when you're light on the skids, if the helicopter feels the need to put in an input to say go right roll, and because it's touching the ground, nothing's happening, what it will tend to do is think, right, I need to put more in because nothing's happening. So it puts more in, then still nothing's happening, so I put even more in, and it gets to the point where it can sort of flip over. So when you're getting this off the ground, you need to do it reasonably. Once the rotor speed is picked up, you need to get it off the ground pretty quick. What I do is I flick it into idle up 1, and then lift it off in that, and it's much easier. I'd prefer to be able to disable the actual altitude hold, the safe mode, and just have that as normal, but I haven't found a way of doing that yet. And then idle up 1 is sort of 80% throttle, full control. Idle up 2 is 100% throttle and full control, and both of those work quite well. I've done so far, flying wise, I've done loops. I've done a little bit of inverted. The first time I went inverted, it come tearing down towards me, and that's just because I wasn't used to the point where it held inverted, which was pulling the throttle stick back a lot further than I do on this and my T-Rex 550. So, but that's just getting used to it. Once I'd got it in, it was absolutely fine. Obviously, it's not as locked in as this and the bigger one, but that's to be expected. And I was flying it in extremely blustery conditions, so I'll sort of do some more testing and see how the AS3X performs. One thing to note about this is quite often when they give you these flybarless receivers, they don't tell you how to change things like the PIDs and stuff. Well, in the manual for this, there's all the instructions, and it shows you how to get into all the settings to change the PIDs and everything on the flybarless unit, which is fantastic. So you can tweak and play around with it. You haven't got to go online and find secret menus and things. It's all there in the manual, which is great. As far as my modification goes, obviously I've just put a bit of field tubing on there to protect that wire. Where I put the aerial lead, I've just moved that slightly so it's not catching on anything carbon, and that's seemed to work absolutely fine. I've got no issues at all. I think the boom supports look really nice. I really want to get rid of this, but I haven't found a replacement. I want a carbon one like this, and I haven't found a replacement for it. I found one of these in carbon online, but not the vertical fin, so I'm still looking for that, because this back end is basically the same as the 230, which is a shame really. They could have differentiated this a little bit more, being a CFX, by putting a decent tail fin on at least. But there you go. The fact that it's not got a metal head, no problem with that at all. It's all this tough polycarbonate or whatever you call it, this real good strong plastic. I've got no problems having plastic where a little bit of give sometimes is actually quite useful. So I'm not unhappy about that. Really, it is what it is. That was the other thing I was going to say. I have seen a few reports saying that it can blow out the tail. Well, yeah, it will blow out the tail. If you're doing it real extreme 3D, it will blow out the tail, because let's face it, this motor only turns one direction, and the rest of it is relying on the inertia from the main blades, the contra force. So, these tail rotor motors are great. And like when you crash, all you've got is a couple of wires going through the boom. It's not complicated, it's easy to change, but it's never going to perform as well as either a tube drive or a belt drive like this, which is a direct drive. So you're never going to get that kind of performance with a tail rotor motor. This does absolutely fine in my opinion, and it will only blow out under extreme circumstances. But then I think if you're pushing it to those kinds of limits, you've probably not got the right heli here. That's not who it's designed for. It is classed as an intermediate, not a full-on 3D. It's an intermediate helicopter that will do 3D, and it does. And it does a pretty good job. It's not all lollopy. It's got some nice punch to it. It's plenty powerful, and as I say, it's got some nice touches. And it's and this is an interesting thing as well. I notice that on this one, it's got an aluminium anti-rotation guide because it's got a plastic anti-rotation pin. On here, it's got a metal rotation pin, and so they put a plastic guide. Because if you put a metal guide on this as an upgrade, and then you've got metal to metal, that can cause interference and issues. Not so much these days on 2.4, but certainly in the old days that would be an issue, metal to metal, and I never liked metal to metal. So it's quite interesting the way they've chosen to do that. Looks wise, I really like it. It has good presence in the sky. It's not so big that it's intimidating in any way. The head speed gets a bit high and noisy when you put it in 100% mode, but you soon get used to it, and then when you put it back into normal, it's like, oh, that sounds really slow. So overall, there's a couple of one other little thing, which is a silly thing really, but this is obviously off something else. It doesn't really fit properly. It comes off very easily, and it's too tall for these blades. It's actually pushing that top blade up quite a bit. So this needs cutting out and lowering down a little bit, but that's obviously just something they've slung in out of another heli, which is a bit annoying. So there are my two annoying things, that and the fact that they didn't give you boom supports on here. Other than that, the batteries I'm using are I was right. It says in the book 1350 milliamps, but I've got 1300 Nanotechs. I've got a 45 to 90C discharge one there, and a 20 to 30C one. They're both fine. They work absolutely perfectly, so that's good. That will give you a good 5 minutes flying with plenty left in the bank. So all in all, I'm really pleased with it. I'm going to do some more flying, and I'm going to capture some more flying video with it, and I'll post that as soon as I can. So for now, this is GRVO TVG's reviews, views and opinions with the Blade 250 CFX. I'll see you soon. Bye.